Again, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Yemati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivasisha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satharine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So specifically welcome to Mother Ruchira, who thinks joining us for the first time, and Mother Alchir as well. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. Hare Krishna. All right, so let's share the screen. Here we go. In share.
I can hear. One or two devotees are saying they can't hear, but I can hear you.
Oh, no, it's not that.
It's working.
So it must be something at your end, devotees, are having trouble hearing.
I can hear really clearly.
Yeah, I've got my super microphone here.
Yeah.
So let's have a look in the chat.
You just have to put your hearing aids on.
Try putting the volume up. Hare Krishna. Is that better?
No, I wrote there.
Yeah, let's
try to put the volume up.
Perfect.
Okay, it's perfect. That sounds too good to be true. Hare Krishna, it's perfect.
What happened yesterday, though, with your internet?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You just didn't want to give us a class, didn't you?
No, it was the internet's fault. It was the internet's fault. Okay, so we're on chapter 9. And what I do is I just read, because this is one of the largest purport in the Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 9, text 2. And I just read through the verse again. And then we can pick up from where we left off in the purport. It's a wonderful verse, this verse. Raja-vidya, raja-guhyam, pavitram, idam, uttamam, pratyaksavagamam, dharmyam, su-sukham, avyayam. So the translation: this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. All right, and moving the screen, and this is where we left off. You see it's highlighted in green there. So I think a couple who have just joined us, Ruchira, and as well, is that if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can also make any comments at any time. You can ask for clarification if something's not clear, or make a comment as you wish. You can do that by raising your hand, or actually you can do that by unmuting, because devotees raise their hand to read. Yeah, so you're quite welcome to read as well. Normally we read in a long purport like this, we try and devotees read a paragraph. All right, so, or you can put it in the chat as well. No problem. Whatever you find easiest. All right, so Mother Mongol Pru, you have your hand raised, so you can take us in to this purport.
This knowledge is the purest form of all activities, as explained in the Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities has been analyzed and are shown to be the result of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms on sinful reactions. For instance, when the seeds of the particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers and bears fruits, and when it's completed, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seeds of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruits of the sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sins which are still
to be suffered. It was
enjoyed.
Enjoyed, yeah?
Yeah, actions are still to be enjoyed.
Here it says suffered. It
Yeah.
must be a thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyway,
There are,
You
yeah,
say enjoy.
they are
Still to be
one and the same thing from a spiritual perspective in the material world. There you go. One.
where is it? There are different stages. I lost where I was.
Yes,
Simple
I
acts,
distracted you.
seeds,
You're down here. I'm just
Yeah.
highlighting here
the
for you.
knowledge, yeah?
The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual.
But results of the fruits of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed, and there are other which are already fructified and are given as fruits, which we're enjoying as distress and pain. As explained in the 28th verse of 7th chapter, a person who has completed completely ended the reaction of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, become engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reactions. This statement is confirmed in Padma Purana. Aprabdha palam papam kutam bijam palonmukham kramenaiva pariyata Vishnu bhakti rata manam. For those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reaction, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of a seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called pavitram uttamam, the purest. Uttamam means transcendental, tamas means this material world or darkness, and uttama means that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who and can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are no material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is said that the execution of devotional service.
If you just pause there, yeah, because it's on a different aspect of the verse. Right, so Prabhupada speaks about this, especially the different stages of sinful reaction. And he speaks about it in what book? Anyone can name that book where Prabhupada speaks about this, the purifying potency.
Nectar of devotion.
Correct, yeah. It's in the first chapter, the relief from all distress.
Yeah.
So that's Prabhupada's commentary on the Bhakta Rasamrita Sindhu, right? So this is the potency of devotional service, and specifically in the Nectar Devotion, I had a look just to remind ourselves. Speaks here of reactions that have fructified. So that's called prarabdha. We know often we speak about prarabdha karma, so that's what's manifest. So specifically in the form of body. You can hear me, my voice is coming back at me.
It's good.
All right. And then we have waiting to take effect, phalon mukha. Yeah. Then we have further dormant, kuta. Then we have reactions like a seed, bija. So we have you could say we have hundreds of millions of these different reactions, yeah, waiting to fructify. But just by the activities of bhakti, we can become purified of all these sinful reactions. And there was a nice example given by Baladev Vijay Bhushana describes that the word kramena indicates that sins are destroyed. So the hundreds of millions of sins, so to speak. So if you picture them like a leaf, and the potency of pure devotion is like a needle going through all those sinful reactions. So they get purified one at a time, but they get purified very quickly, according to that degree that we apply ourselves to the activities of bhakti. All right, so this is the. Any questions or comments on this?
Why some seeds sprout quicker than the others? Because I think it says in Nectar of Devotion, some take longer than others, and some are quicker. Is that because are more, how you say, more bigger sins?
Interesting.
Could you hear me, Muni Prabhu?
Yeah, I can hear you. It says actually that, yeah, that some fructify quickly and some fructify at latter stages. It says that, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only natural. It's to the degree as you mentioned, to the degree of the sinful activity. Yeah. Then it may manifest immediately. Generally, it's going to manifest not immediately. You heard of this thing called instant karma? Sometimes that may happen, but generally it's described in the Mahabharata, for instance, that if you perform, like for instance, if you're 25 years old and you're particularly unpleasant to someone, or you're particularly, or something you do sinfully at the age of 25, then when you're 25 in your next life, that's when you will experience it. It will come back at you at the same age. Yeah.
So then if you take devotional service and you purify, and because you purify, then the karma will be more instant. Then when you
well, it can be like that in that sense that Krishna may speed up the process. So therefore, if devotees are preparing to go back to Godhead, then Krishna may relieve you of all sinful reactions, or he has, as we mentioned before, then he may see it fit that the reactions will impel you further to actually take shelter of his lotus feet. So sometimes devotees also, while they're preparing for going back to Godhead, then they may have to go through quite a few, you could say, Krishna's arrangement of their karma in one life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's why some devotees suffer more. Let's say they are very pure devotees, but they suffer a lot. And many people and many devotees question why is he suffering if he's such a holy person. But then we don't look from that perspective that maybe Krishna actually purifies them, help them to go back quicker.
But I thought devotees don't suffer. That is the thing. They say devotees don't suffer. It's apparent suffering.
Yeah.
But actually, if they've taken shelter of Krishna, it's just apparent suffering because Krishna is taking care of them, and they would feel that, even though outwardly to somebody else it may look like they're going through some horrible things, but because they've taken shelter of Krishna, it looks like. So, I mean, that's how I understand it.
Yeah, that's wonderful explanation. So there's different points here. One point is just that sometimes, back to your point, Madhu Mongol, but then we come to Lavanga's wonderful point that she's made. First of all, there may be a misconception that taken to Krishna consciousness means that you're not going to face the miseries of material existence. So sometimes devotees' exclamation that why am I suffering so much, it may just be a incorrect understanding of the process of bhakti, in that we are still in the material world and there's prapta karma. We may have unrealistic expectations. Yeah, we're thinking if I take to devotional service, then it's never going to rain on my head. Is that everything's going to go wonderful, everything's going to go perfectly. But the fact that we're in the material world and we have the material body, it may well not be the case. But as Bhagavad just mentioned, the suffering that we are going through, that a devotee is going through, is not the same as what the non-devotee is going through. In other words, devotees are going through suffering and coming out purified. They're going through difficulty and becoming more attached to Krishna. And that difficulty is impelling them to take more shelter of Krishna. So in one sense, as Mother Lavanga said, they're not actually suffering like someone without, or someone who's not practicing devotional service. Yeah. So apparently it looks like, but actually they're just divesting themselves of the last stages of contamination before they enter into the spiritual world. But someone who is a non-devotee, so to speak, their suffering just causes more and more intense mental agony, intense mental kind of mental agony, and also depression, etc. And it may lead them to commit further sinful activities. It's becoming more and more entangled. So they're not going through suffering, they are just continuing the cycle of suffering. But devotees are going through and becoming divested of. Does that make some sense? Yeah, this statement that it seems like devotees are, when one takes to devotional service, one suffers more. That's not actually a case. If you actually take to devotional service, then your life becomes sublime. Yeah, even if you're put in difficult situations. Sorry, Mother Chandravali, you said so.
Like, I have a few points. Like, my understanding is like, you perform the actions, then you get the reactions. Krishna gives you only a part of the reaction. He also gives you spiritual strength to tolerate that reaction. Also gives you intelligence how to go ahead with that. Because to me personally, I've gone through all these things what we're talking about. And like Krishna can take you all the way to the top with all that worry you have and think, is it going to be okay? It's going to be, and within few minutes, he changes the whole situation.
Yeah. So what's the three things you mentioned? Your three specific points you mentioned. One was
the action. Krishna gives. We perform action. So Krishna then gives us reactions to it.
Yeah.
But then, according to our...
But that's reduced, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. According to our surrender, we get a fraction of what we deserve.
Yeah.
On top of it, Krishna also gives you spiritual strength, understanding to tolerate it.
Yeah, so we get a fraction.
Yeah.
When I first joined, it said that...
to cope with it. Also give from within, gives you the understanding how to go ahead with that situation you are in.
Yeah, wonderful. So that's spiritual strength. And the third point you mentioned, was that?
I can't remember now.
No, I think you mentioned... Sorry?
Because I remember the last situation went through, like you think, oh no, how are you going to go through this? And then Krishna sends this spiritual master comes and says, look, it's like you working in an office. You have to fight for your job. So you have to fight for these things. And you sitting there thinking, well, I'm a devotee. I can't do things. No, I can't do this. I can't do that. But then Krishna sends somebody who gives you the understanding how you cope with that, how you go ahead with that situation.
Yeah.
So Krishna is just
there
all the time. You have to realize Krishna in your life, you know?
Yeah. So does that give more broader perspective, Mother Mongol Prabhu?
Yeah. So devotees actually burn the karma, where non-devotees accumulate more karma.
Yeah.
They don't know the knowledge. They don't have knowledge what actually happens. So the moment you have it, you can actually dissolve it and go further.
Yeah. And all very much depends upon that, applying ourselves to the process of hearing and chanting. You know? Yeah.
Also, Madhumanga, you was talking about, like, we know the story of Dhritarashtra, his 100 sons being killed, and then how he got the boon that he will have the 100 sons. He had already killed 100 birds, right? He had one life.
Mhm.
To get the piety to have 100 sons, he had to go through so many lives to get that piety. So once he got the piety to have the 100 sons, then that reaction took place.
The reaction to lose 100 sons.
Yes, took place. Yeah.
So mixed.
So like
Yeah,
he was saying that why doesn't it come straight away? But sometimes you have to wait.
Yeah, sometimes there's so many kind of
Other things that are, you know, like to me, I've always think it's like a puzzle. Your actions, reaction, it's a puzzle. Then all other puzzles have to fit in, and you get your reactions or benefits or whatever.
some they have priority.
Yeah, and just going here, let's just recap on what Prabhupada says here.
Oh, I just had another thought about
There
the
you go.
reactions that we get with Krishna. They always teach us a lesson, like, you know, Nalakavara Manigriva, they were put in, I mean, they were cursed by Narada, but basically it's Krishna's arrangement, into bodies of trees, but they saw Krishna's pastimes, and although they were in a cursed condition, the reaction from being, you know, not recognizing Narada as a superior person, so they got, there's a blessing inside the reaction with Krishna. So it's even better because Krishna's mercy is there. So
Yeah,
it's kind of not even a reaction in a way.
yeah, that's a very good example because they were completely intoxicated with their wealth and with their position in demigod society. But then they got cursed to become trees. So they learned a good lesson in humility, you know, so they learned a good lesson. Yeah, very good point. And also here, I'm just kind of rereading the part where Prabhupada, he actually says here, as explained in the 28th verse of 7th chapter, a person who is completely yesham dvanda gadam papam, that's the last verse of 7th chapter. A person has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities, who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed. You need to let someone in, Madhumanga. Being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, those who actually engage in devotional service, now this is the point I want to highlight, of the Supreme Lord, are already freed from all reactions. Then Prabhupada again goes through here. For those who engage in devotional service, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stock, etc., will all vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong and is called pavitram uttamam. So that's us. We're engaged in devotional service. So therefore, there is no sinful reactions. Another perspective. So what's the point we're making here? What's being arranged for us is being done directly by Krishna. It's not part of the material, equation. It's not part of the natural phenomena of the mechanics of karma. It's directly arranged by Krishna. Yeah, so it's something to
Can I jump in?
contemplate when we're going through difficulty. Oh, this is directly arranged by Krishna. I guess we can give the example to some degree. We have the Pandavas as an example. I often bring this up, is that they were, as we know, they were born of demigods, and they did not perform any sinful activity, but they had to face so much reversals in their life. So we can only consider if they were devotees, and it says here they're free from all sinful reactions, then it must be arranged by Krishna. That's another perspective. So many lessons to learn.
Can I add
Yeah.
something quick?
Yes, you can.
But then we need to receive something from Krishna, so this mechanism to work, to purify. Because non-devotees, they don't experience the same, and they don't understand that they purify themselves when something bad happens to them. Where a devotee, when something bad happens to them, because they receive something from Krishna, then the mechanisms start to work. Let's say
Yeah,
they receive a brush.
Yeah, but it's Krishna's arrangement. It's like the mechanics that are arranged by Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Krishna is directly involved in a devotee's life. So Krishna is directly involved in your life. Yeah. And the lessons, yeah, the things we have to go through, as we said, we can gain valuable lessons, as Mother Chandravali has nicely said, and Mother Lavanga Latika as well. We can learn, we become more wise, we get more faith in Krishna, we get spiritual strength. There's so much comes actually from the difficulties that that we might have to face. I think we could perhaps say that if it wasn't for the difficulties that we had faced, then perhaps we wouldn't be motivated to actually take shelter of Krishna. Yeah, there's a good chance we could be distracted. And that's why the demigods favor practice of devotion in the material world, because they're in a very pious, a very kind of materially opulent situation. It doesn't give them the impetus to call out to Krishna. So to the degree that you call out to Krishna, to that degree, you receive Krishna's grace. So anyway, so this is pavitram uttamam. Here, we're just commenting on this part here. Pavitram uttamam. It is the purest knowledge. Pavitram. It is the purest knowledge. Right? Any other comments on this? Okay.
In devotional service, I feel that when you think you are comfortable, you're doing your devotional service week in, week after, and you kind of think you're comfortable, then Krishna comes and shakes the rug under your feet and changes things for you. And he says, well, why? I was doing this and I was doing it's okay. And then after a while, you realize why Krishna did that. Because you can be complacent in your services. Then Krishna, you're praying, oh, but I want to be serious. I want to do this serious. And yet you're just carrying on doing as you're doing it. You're not making any changes in your spiritual life. So then Krishna comes, okay, you're asking this on one side. On the other side, you're carrying on the way you're doing it. So he comes and shakes a few things up for you. And then you start, okay, right. This is what you want me to do.
Yeah. So Krishna Krishna.
Yeah, it's just,
Krishna's very expert. When he sees if there's a particular subtle attachment that's arising, Krishna will see the danger and he will make arrangements that we, see its futility. All right, let's read a bit more. Some Mother Lavanga Latika, you have your hand there. You can read a reading from here at the top here. You got it? You can see that, Mother Lavanga Latika?
Yeah, it is said, yeah?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. The direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. In the Vedanta,
This one comment here is that we shouldn't underestimate the spiritual effects that we have experienced in chanting Hare Krishna. You know, for example, some of the realizations that devotees have, even in the beginning stages of their devotional life, when they're just beginning to chant Hare Krishna and perhaps follow principles, then they experience realizations that yogis may spend lifetimes trying to obtain. Yeah, devotees have profound experiences. But sometimes we become a little, what's the word? We become a bit familiar. For instance, you ask a devotee to speak about not being in the body or the bliss of Krishna consciousness and the Brahman, etc. They can give a pretty good account. But then you got persons who are practicing, say, yoga for perhaps for hundreds of lifetimes. They may not have a clear conception. You know, that was just one thought that came to mind, that actually devotees do have quite profound experiences and they shouldn't be taken for granted. They're actually something very profound. It's not easily come by, but just by engaging in devotion, by chanting the holy names. But and he mentions here, in course of chanting, without offenses, feel some transcendental pleasure. This is called param drishna navartate. Yeah. So by that transcendental pleasure, one can be free from attraction to mundane pleasure. And that's what yogis are trying to do for countless lifetimes. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Any other comments on that or questions? There's one verse which I'm learning at the moment for Bhakti Vaibhava. Yapada pankajaya vilasa bhakta kamasam grate utagayanti sanva tanvan nirikto matayo yatayo piroda shrudogunastam aranam bhaja vasudevam. Describes that you're advised to engage in devotional service to the Lord. You should take shelter. One who takes the shelter of devotional service, then he easily overcomes the hard-knotted desire for fruitive activities. He easily overcomes the hard-knotted desire for material pleasure. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, or those trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, are unable to do so. Therefore, you should engage in the devotional service to the lotus feet of Krishna. Yeah, this is O Shiva to the Pachetas, Canto 4. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Therefore, you should take shelter of Krishna. But you can continue. Let's any comments on that. I thought I'd share that verse. I was just looking at that verse today. Yes, carry on, Lavanga. You can.
Okay. In the Vedanta Sutra 3.2.26, this is also described in the following words. Prakasascha
What is the time?
Kamni Abhisat.
6:36
Devotional,
I've got to go muting 1 second.
yeah. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who in that life happened to be the son of a maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born into a high family. But when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged, and sometimes in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, Uchista lepan anumodito dvijay, sakrit sma bunjay tad apasta kilvisa. Yeah. Evam pravatasya visuddha chetasas tad dharma evatma ruchi prajayate. In this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.25, Narada describes his previous life to his disciple Vyasadeva. He says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees during the 4 months of their stay, he was intimately associating with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy who would wash their dishes wanted to taste the remnants. So he asked the great devotees for their permission, and when they gave it, Narada ate those remnants and consequently he went on eating, he gradually became as bright as the sages. The great devotees. Is my sound okay?
It's coming, you're going up through the tube a bit, but we can just about understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So just carry on.
Do that. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting, and Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada says further, Tantravaham Krishna Kata Pragayatam Anugrahane Sarnir Navam Manohara Tad Tasradayame Nupadam Virsin Bata Priyas Rasa Yasyanga Mama Bhavadruchi. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Prakasascha Karmani Abhyasat, if one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically, and he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, directly perceived. Yeah. The word dharmyam means,
yeah, it's the same.
The word dharmyam means the path of religion. Narada, who was actually a son of a maidservant, he had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother, and unfortunately, his mother rendered some service to the devotees. The child Narada also got the opportunity and simply by association achieved the highest goal of all religion. The highest goal of all religion is devotional service, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Savipum samparo dhammo yato bhaktira doxaje. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of chapter 8, Vedesu yagneshu tapashu chaiva. Generally, Vedic knowledge is required for self-realization. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master and was not educated in Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Acharyavan Puruso Veda, one who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization. The process of devotional service is a happy one.
Just pause there, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a very wonderful example of the potency of devotional service. Again, of the purity of devotional service. It's highlighting Narada Muni. He wasn't a Brahmin. He was the son of a maidservant. And he didn't have any particular rabbinical study behind him. But just by associating, just by his mother serving the great devotees, he became greatly advanced. So, and here again, this is from Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. He says, unlike karma, jnana, and other processes, bhakti is easy to execute. That's what it says. Su-sukham kartum avyayam. So Prabhupada, he's elaborating on this, how bhakti is easy to practice and it has immeasurable, wonderful results. It says, there are no extreme pains to the body, voice, or mind by renunciation of the senses. Like today, I was searching for a picture from one of my PowerPoint presentations, and I saw a picture of a yogi in the Himalayas, covered in snow, sitting in the Himalayas. He's obviously been there for days, just sitting in the snow and the ice, meditating, trying to meditate that he's not the body. So fortunately, that's not needed in devotional service. Instead of that, you can come to the temple on a Sunday and have a feast. And you'll make more advancement than a yogi in the Himalayas. Yeah, just by associating with devotees, coming to a festival, rendering some, doing some service, coming to a lunch program, cleaning the temple room. It's so sublime. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says here, commenting on this, there are no extreme pains to the voice, mind, by renunciation of the senses, since bhakti makes use of the ears and other senses as principal elements in hearing, chanting, and other processes. Because it is beyond the gunas, beyond the modes of nature, the process of bhakti is eternal, avyayam, unlike such processes as karma and jnana, which are temporary. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Any comments on that before we read on further? Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
I have a
Please.
small question.
And
to you.
Sandeep, thank you for joining us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So sometimes what I feel is the human being, if he goes through a pain, more pain than he can bear, probably God would give us a helping hand. But that's the way he's cleansing us very quickly to reduce the distance between him and us. So
Say that part again very quickly, a distance. Just say that again. Didn't quite catch it.
I mean, basically, when we are put through a lot of pain, that means that reaching Krishna is not so far. I mean,
it's not so easy or not so far.
Not so far.
Not so far. I mean, it's closer.
Yeah, that's close.
Okay.
That's the quickest way to get rid of bad karma, and in a way, we are compensating for what are the previous karmas we have done, and quickly nullifying them. And I think when our good karmic account increases, then probably we are more dear to Krishna than ever, I believe. I mean, the bottom line is what in our life, whatever the pain we are going through and whatever the situation we are in, and I think it's always this way. I mean, why I'm bringing this now is like when you said person sitting in Himalaya and doing going through severe penance.
Yeah, I understand.
And, yeah, the easiest way is chanting Hare Krishna mantra. But sometimes people won't think in a way like they don't like simple solutions.
I think I understand your. If I understand your point correctly, one time Prabhupada was on a morning walk, and this was in Mayapur, and one devotee had no shoes. So Prabhupada stopped and he pointed. He said, "Why don't you have any shoes on?" So he said to Prabhupada, "Well, Prabhupada, I want to get purified more." Prabhupada said there was already so much, there was already so much difficulties in this world. There was no need for any extra austerity. So your point's taken. Practically speaking, as we discussed, that when devotees are in difficulty, then we can more sincerely request Krishna's mercy and grace that's definitely there, but we don't have to make any extra endeavor to take on artificial austerities. Better we just accept the austerities that come as a course in our practice of practicing Krishna consciousness and spreading Krishna consciousness. Yep, that in itself will bestow upon us great mercy from Krishna. Like, for example, say we may go out on book distribution. Yeah, now we may not be the type of personality that feels very comfortable with approaching strangers on the street and trying to stop them. It may be a challenge physically as well. But say if someone goes with the Sankirtan party, so in one sense they're taking on an austerity, but it's a natural austerity that comes with the practice of bhakti. Yeah. So there's no need to artificially add any austerities for austerity's sake. But we take on austerities for preaching. And as you know, some of our spiritual masters, we think of the austerities that they actually go through and some of the health issues that they have, and still they're engaged in preaching. Yeah, because they have such a taste for preaching and they feel so much compassion. So, for instance, austerity, it means like you're going to go to the holy dham. So you got to sit on the plane. You got to sit in a lump of metal in a seat 2 foot by 3 foot for like 6 or 7 hours if you're flying from the Europe to get to the holy dham, and then you got to get in a taxi. In India, there's so many austerities. But it's austerities that come as a natural consequence of hearing and chanting. There's no. I don't know if that if I've understood your question right. Your point is taken for sure, but we've no need to take on extra austerities that outside of the natural practice of devotional service. As Prabhupada said, there is already so many austerities in this world. We've no need to add any.
Agree.
Yeah.
I think, Krishna gives only the challenges that devotee can actually bear, and he only knows one thing, that is only loving anyone that comes to his feet.
Yeah. So there's so much austerity in this world. So when Krishna sees the devotees, despite the difficulties, that they still carry on engaging in Shravanam Kirtanam, they still engage in their devotional activities, then Krishna becomes so pleased. Yeah. So thank you, but good point. Gayatri's wrote something here. Reduce the distance. Was that a comment, Mother Gayatri, in the chat?
Yeah, Prabhu said reduce. You couldn't hear what he said, so I just.
Oh, I agree. Okay, yeah, reduce the distance. Yeah. So, yeah, we followed instructions of the spiritual master, and that may bring its different austerities as well. The spiritual master gives a certain instruction, and we try our best to follow. Yeah. Because what can happen, and this is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, actually, that if we take on austerities for austerity's sake, then how anyone can quote from Nectar of Devotion that how might that affect us?
Your heart will become like a stone.
Quite dramatically put there by Modern Mongol. Your heart will become harder. So for bhakti, the heart has to be soft. I think Jiva Goswami mentions this in his commentary on Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu. Yeah, if we just take on austerities, put our body through intense suffering, then the chances are then one might become impervious to emotions or any feelings. And that's what yogis are trying to do. They're trying to become impervious to any dualities and any emotions or feelings. But we need emotions and feelings for practicing, because bhakti is all about expressing loving devotion. So our hearts should become soft and not hard. But it doesn't mean we have to find a balance. It doesn't mean we live a, we'll say, a life of, what did Bhaktisiddhanta call it? A life of foppery. Anyone heard the word foppery before? It's an old word. Bhaktisiddhanta said, he was speaking about the ashrams. The ashram is not a place for foppery. Better go back to your mother than live. So foppery means you're just like, perhaps our common, the equivalent of that, which we heard of, is a couch potato. Everyone heard of couch potato? Yeah, you're just laying on the couch and, you know, you've got your chocolates on one side, you've got your remote control on the other, you know, and you're just sitting there foppering.
Sounds like me.
So we have to find the right balance, you know. We don't want to become over comfortable. So therefore, it's good devotees can, of course, different, depends on your situation. But it's good if we can set ourselves standards of rising early, you know, and leading a simple life and not an overly luxurious, foppish life. Yeah, so some level of so you understand there's a balance there, but no need to stand in your head in the Himalayas to develop more attachment to Krishna. Yeah, better stand on your 2 feet in the queue for the Sunday feast. You get more mercy. All right. All right. Anything else in that? Thank you, Anvesh Prabhu, for giving that wonderful question stroke comment. Should we edge on a bit more? The time is, we've got 6 minutes left. Let's just check. 54 minutes from now. So let's read now about su-sukham. The process of devotional service is a very happy one. Okay. So who would like to read this? Just any enthusiastic readers out there? Mother Gayatri, are you in a position to read?
I'm sorry, Prabhu, I'm very much engaged. Sorry. Next
Okay.
week.
Yeah,
No.
I'll try to read it, Prabhu.
Thank you, Anvesh. We're here.
Yeah, the process of devotional service is a very
Yes.
happy one. Su-sukham. Why? Devotional service consists of Sravanam Kirtanam Visnoho. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of Lord, or can attend the philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by the authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn, then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God. Nice palatable dishes in every state. Devotional service is, I think we need to move to the next page.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Yeah.
Comes up a bit slow sometimes.
Yeah. Of Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga.
Would you read? 1 second. You're reading. Yeah, if you go back, it's joyful here. You've gone forward. It's here. Yeah, you're reading from here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Joyful, one can execute the devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He is ready to accept from devotee any kind of offering, never mind what. Even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sananta Kumara became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional process is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. It's said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. Although they sometimes take to so-called devotional service, their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service, but at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. Such temporary time-saving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord.
It does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahman position, one's devotional service begins. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu mat bhaktim labate param. By executing devotional service, one can understand the Supreme Lord. No one can understand the Supreme Personality. If I move on to the next one, no one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by executing the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or any other yoga independently. By these yogic methods, one may make a little progress towards Bhakti Yoga. But without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the personality of Godhead. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then he can understand the signs of Krishna or the signs of God. Evam Prasna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha. When one's heart is cleared of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education and the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, one should adopt it. Any comments or questions on that? Actually, the quote which I said earlier was more applied here. For here, there are no extreme from Krishnanoff. There are no extreme pains to the body, etc. Yeah, because it's all very yes. Su-sukham, kartum, avyayam. Okay. All right. Let's pause there then. And next Tuesday, if all is okay, then we can begin with 9.3. I've got another engagement just coming up. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Any last comments or questions you can make? So perhaps I'll ask, what's the particular lessons that we've learned today? Can anyone say what they're going to go away with in our discussion? Something that stuck out for you?
This is Ruchira. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
It was a
Yes,
wonderful
Ruchira,
class,
yes,
Prabhu.
please.
That was a wonderful class, Prabhu. I've learned that when we suffer, it takes us closer to Krishna.
Yeah, when we suffer, it
So-
sounds strange, isn't it? When we suffer, it takes us closer to Krishna.
Yes, that's.
But we've no need to try and take on artificial suffering. It's come anyway. So when we suffer, we come to Krishna. Yes. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. So in that sense, Mother Lavanga brought up a good point, isn't it? That actually devotees don't really suffer. It may seem like, but they're not. They're actually, they're like in a shower. You know, they're going through, they're getting cleansed, and they're tasting another level of purity by going through difficulties in Krishna's service. But one point to mention, though, in order to really apply this, we have to associate with devotees. You know, because say if one is going through a difficult situation, and sometimes what we see devotees do, sometimes go through very trying situations. Sometimes we need to speak to other devotees. We need other devotees to give us encouragement as well, to remind us of this, you know, that there must be some plan of the Lord that is very difficult. So that should be noted as well. Without the association of devotees, it may be difficult for us to get through the challenges that we're going to face in life, you know. But thank you, Mother Ruchira. Anybody else?
By reading the last paragraphs that I have gone through,
Yeah,
it seems like it relates to the more what we have discussed, and yeah, the takeaway is like, irrespective of where you are, where you're born, from where what you have, what you don't have, just if you just offer your love and to Krishna, I think it will come back in millions. And with the same amount.
yeah.
attributed from Krishna.
Yeah.
But this particular context actually reminds me of one devotee called Bhakta Ramadas. Yeah, he's a ardent devotee of Lord Rama, and he has suffered a lot in his life, and at the end he was put in jail for his devotional deeds.
In jail for devotional deeds must be not so a favorable government.
And when he was offered place in Vaikunta, and then he said, like, I don't want to be in a place where your holy name is not chanted. I want to be in a place where it is chanted all the time. So I mean, it's as you said, the liberated soul, the actual devotion starts post the liberation. I mean, I think that's he's one of the classic examples for that. I mean,
yeah. Thank you for that. It says there, after one is liberated, as we've seen in the Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, one is situated on the Brahman platform. One's devotional service begins. So, actually begins. There's a verse that relates to that. It's not like we're not doing devotional service before that point, but at the point of Brahma Bhuta, then one really experiences what's called bhav, or sentiments of strong affection and love for Krishna. So in that sense. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Please join us again next week and we'll continue. We'll move on to verse 3 of chapter 9. And thank you for listening in, and very nice discussion. Thank you everyone. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Bole Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna.